Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to be doing lighting and probing. So let's jump directly into our map. We have no downloads this time. Okay, so small warning, my understanding of lighting and probing is pretty shallow. There are definitely people online who understand this better, but I can give you a simple run through, a very simple way of doing this, so that going forward you have a basis on which to work. So first we're going to be doing probing, then we're going to be doing lighting, but before we can do either of those, we need to set up our map so our volumetrics work properly. So in order to have working volumetric lighting, which is it's the thing that makes Black Ops 3's lighting look so nice in game, you're going to want to go over to your entity browser and you're going to want to type in lit right here, volume, lit fog. Drag that in, and now you have this kind of little box. And so what you're going to want to do with this is, before you do anything else with it, you're going to want to scroll down to FSI, and here you can set your fog levels and stuff, and it'll make your lighting look much better if you take volumetric if you take volumetric on your lighting. So frankly, I don't know which one of these works best. You can go through them, see which one you like the look of. Each of them are different. There's a bunch of them. For this one, I'm just going to go with the bottom one. And then what you're going to want to do with this is, you want this to surround your whole map. You want this to be something that can be seen from everywhere. So what I usually do is I just take the volume and I drag it out to the outermost box around the map. And that way, if I ever have to move the boxes and you can't extend them and make them shorter based on where you are in your mapping stages, but we're just going to want to make this as big as this other stuff. There we go. Okay. Now once you have that that volume dragged out and you gave it an FSI, you can go down here in your entity browser and you can just type in reflection probe, and I have it favorited, and to do that you just right click it and click toggle favorite, but you'll find it right here. So drag your reflection probe out, and now the way these work is they basically build lighting in a specific area, so the lighting looks way better, it looks moodier. There is technically a big probe that's on your sun volume, but you don't want to use it as your primary probe, because it can't get in and do details, especially in buildings and stuff. So now that you have this, you're going to want to just click it out to where it's supposed to go. So if you press Control and click, oh boy, oh, I know what it is. If I do this, there we go. Because advanced patch editing options likes to, don't worry about it. Control click out to the size of your room, or alternatively, see, now here's where things get a little bit questionable. And then you'll have to drag this down to wherever your roof is. Obviously, this building doesn't have a roof. That is on purpose. But drag it out to wherever your roof would be, and you're good. Okay, so how do you do this room to room? Because that can become confusing, or it could become an issue. So here's how you do it from room to room. So I'm going to just copy this one and move it over here, and I'm gonna fix all of its sides. And once I fixed all of its sides, how do we make the probing consistent from this room over here to this room over here? So this is the only way I was ever taught to do it, but and you can click volumetric on these. The only way I was taught to do it was if you go over here to override, it makes it so each probe has its little points on it. You can see them over here. And the way the probe basically works is it grabs the visual information from that area and it bounces lights and reflections and that kind of stuff. And so whenever you have a section between the rooms or between the areas like this and it has nothing on it, there's a little gap in the probing. So what you want to do is you want to set one of them to override. And whenever you set it to override, what that means is its points will override the data from this other one's points, allowing you to overlap them a little bit and also still build in that in-between point. So, right there. And we're just gonna tab this over here. Make sure, I believe that they are actually touching. You can make them meet in the middle. I'm not... Oh, yeah, actually, I'm going to make them meet in the middle because the other one is bleeding over into the other room. That's one thing you need to be careful of as well. Make sure they don't bleed over into the other room. If you have a perfectly, like, symmetrical building like I have here, it makes doing this a lot easier. But you want to make sure they have the... Right here, the overlap is inevitable. You can move this. But make sure that where they actually start is the part that's touching. And so, as you can see here, they both meet that point. Now what will happen is reflections will be built in that zone in this doorway between where the two probes were. If you don't understand this, that is perfectly understandable. If you can't tell by the way I'm talking, I barely understand how probing works, and I just know that whenever I do the thing, it looks right. So it looks right most of the time. One thing you'll notice about the amazing, beautiful, lovely Umbra lighting system that the game uses is that God rays will just randomly shine through walls and stuff, and you try to fix it, and you can't seem to fix it, and I just want to reassure you, it's not your fault. The Umbra lighting system is legitimately broken. And there, we're probed. But what about this room right here? This room right here has a curved wall, and you can see this better here, actually. Let's move to a map where I have a curved roof, and then I can show you how to do not square things properly. Okay, so this is a building in a map that I'm making right now. A hallway, not really yeah, part of a building, I guess. And it has a pitched roof. There we go. And what if you want to clip a pitched roof? Because obviously the parts of the probe, if you favorite things in the entity browser, they get put on your right-click menu. Right-click dialog, whatever you want to call it. The top of the probe is a box. The probe is a box, but this roof is pitched. So you'll go down here, and you'll go to box, and you'll click off box. And once you've clicked off box, you'll get this little thing, this little gray thing on your screen. And now you have to take this, and you have to assign the edges properly, appropriately. So here, holding control, it would be this. I'm control left clicking, not control right clicking. This wall, this wall, this wall, this wall, this wall, and then finally this wall, this wall. And once it becomes green, it confirms to you, yes, it is a closed thing, the probe is working, and that is how you probe a not box room. Time for the part of the video where I understand how this works. Light time. So, lights. What you're going to want to do is go over to your entity browser, type in light, and you're going to want to go with, which one is, not build. Don't use the build one, use the one that's in unsorted, the yellow one. Yes. So, take your light and move it to where you want it. I mean, you can move it to where you want it, but there's two different types of lights. There's this type of light, and then there is a spot style light. We're going to run through the lights KVPs, which you can see in its entity info, really quick so that you understand this. If primary no shadow map is ticked, this light will not cast shadows based on the things that it's casting light on. If you tick this off, it will cast shadows. So if this is ticked on, like it is right now whenever you first pull out the light, and the light in the screen is coming through the wall like this, the light will be coming through the wall in game too. But if you have this ticked off, the light will not come through the wall. The two types of lights you can see right here, there's primary omni and then there's primary spot. Spot makes a spotlight, which you can then move and rotate to wherever you want it. This is good for like the ceiling lights and stuff, facility style lights. But say you want your spotlight to be rounded, well, if you go down here, you can find a roundness, and if roundness is set to 1, it is a circle. If roundness is set to 0, it is a perfect square, and then obviously you have decimal points in between there. Okay, okay, we're re-recording this part for a very good reason. Each of these handles controls something, and if you hover over the handle, it'll tell you what. So the big ones you need to know. Radius is literally how big the light is going like in and out. You can see that on the on my grid view. This one on the left here is the stops, and the stops is the brightness. This one up here is FOV outer, so that's how like wide the light is as opposed to just how far out it goes. So you can mess with those and change stuff, and you can change those values numerically, directly, right here. And then you have stops right here. And you can also change the color of the light to whatever you'd like it to be. So if you want it to be a horrible, wretched, bright red color, you could do that. And you could set it stops to something that's blinding. No, lights are very simple. One other value that you might actually want to know is cut on. So the way cut on works is it determines when the light starts. So right now the light starts directly right here from where the light is, but if you set it to like 1, or okay, value higher than that, 50, it'll change the point at which the light actually cuts on, and this allows you to, say if you have a light with a piece of grating on it, over it, you can actually have the light go move out through that, or if the lighting has a bulb on it, you can set it behind it, and it will push the light not from that point in the bulb, but from the outer point with you having shadow map on. Okay, so one more thing before we go. Two more things before we go, excuse me. We still have power lights after this. Right-click over here into your view, and you will select your volume sun. And this will allow you to change your skybox. So if instead, you don't need to hit the clear button, I did not mean to do that really. If you don't want this skybox, which is perfectly understandable, you just go over here and you can actually change it to absolutely any of these that you want. Frankly, I haven't tested most of them, but you can look through these and click through these and mess with your lighting, and if you find one in particular that you like more than the old one or whatever, you can change it to it. So that's how you change your skybox. It's really simple. You're just changing one value in the volume sun. Next is power lights. Okay, so power lights are simple. This won't take long at all. You're going to need to open up your map's GSC file. I have mine right down here. If I could find it. Nope, wrong one. Right one. So here's my map's GSC file, and you'll find this if you go into your map, and you'll find it scripts ZM, and then you'll find its GSC, not its CSC file, and you'll have it, and it'll look like this. If you didn't set up Sublime, it won't look with, it won't have colors, but it'll still have relatively the same stuff, and if you've been following the other tutorials, it'll have this too. But, so, we need to tell the game, basically, that once the power is turned on, change the lighting state. And by changing the lighting state, it'll turn on... basically, different lighting states are the condition under which certain lights are on. So, you'll find this in the description. Your function main basically calls to all the other code and stuff that's down here, and it will run it. This is called threading. So under here, you're going to want to just paste the first line, which will tell it to thread the function initiate underscore power. And then under that, you're going to want to put at the very bottom here the actual function for the power getting turned on. So just set it the lighting states in Radiant are kind of questionable sometimes. Set this to, or keep this as 3, and if 3 doesn't work, because for some reason sometimes setting this to 3 will activate 2, whatever, keep this on 3, but if whenever we actually go and turn on the lights, after setting the lights to state 2, yours don't actually turn on and you have accurately followed each of the instructions in this video, come back here and change this to 2. Or 4, whatever it takes to actually get them to activate on the right, lighting state. So once you have that done, that's all the work you need to do here in your GSC file, and now we just need to go into Radiant. Once you're in Radiant, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to your volume sun like we had just selected a second ago. And in order to initiate a lighting state, that lighting state must also have a skybox. And this is how people, if you've ever in a custom zombies map turned on the power and then the skybox changed, this is how they do it. It's very simple. So you're going to want to go to your next lighting state that you're going to be using. So in this case, it is lighting state 2. And you're going to want to give it a skybox as well. In this case, we'll just be giving it the skybox, which is already being used. And so that means that lights that operate based on power will now work. And what you're going to want to do is for your lights to get your actual lights set up to where they do turn on based on power, you can pull a light in, grab yourself a light or the light you're already using, and go down here and you'll find lighting states. So if we have all of these ticked off, the light will never be on. If we have lighting state 1 ticked on and not these ones, if you've put in the code, it will be turned off when power is turned on. And finally, if you want this to be a power light, a light turned on by the power, you will tick lighting state 2 but not lighting state 1, and whenever lighting state 2 is initiated, this will be turned on. And finally, if you just want the light to always be on, just tick all of them, don't mess with them. Now you have your working power light. That is all for this video. I know this one was a little bit short and slightly questionable. I don't fully understand probing. I understand it, a very basic version of it, and lighting is really something that, like, once you know how to get the light and you know what values to change, it's all about you really experimenting it in your map and deciding, oh, I think that looks good. So I hope that I've helped. In the next video, we will be doing zoning, and at that point, that's like full circle. At that point, you'll have all the like basic things that you need to have a map, and then after that, we can start going over things like more detailed patching. And so you can begin making your map look really nice. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you're confused by anything in this video, ask me in the comment section. Or, alternatively, watch a video by a person who understands this stuff way better, because I do not understand the lighting in this game very well.